Tonight, a Canadian hospital at the center of serious allegations of racism. Foreign-trained physicians file a human rights complaint over what they call discriminatory leadership.
The emotional toll of this is just immense.
As Canada confronts a critical doctor shortage impacting millions.
It's so difficult to tell anybody to come here when we have such a toxic environment.
A deadly airstrike hits a refugee camp in central Gaza.
Gaza has become a graveyard for children.
While Canadians trapped at the border try to get out.
We want our family members out.
Plus, the Beatles come together to release a brand new song.
I know it's true. It's the definition of cool, definition of creativity.
The Fab Four reunite with a little help from AI.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. Canada is recruiting doctors from overseas to fill the gaps in our system. But tonight, some physicians who answered that call say they've been met with intolerance and racism in the halls of their Regina hospital. The allegations have yet to be proven, but the doctors have filed a human rights complaint citing a toxic workplace. CTV's medical correspondent Elias Whitehead has the exclusive details.
Regina General Hospital is facing serious allegations of racism in the Department of Internal Medicine. This human rights complaint was filed by 10 foreign-trained physicians, all of African or South Asian descent. They were recruited in recent years to Saskatchewan to fill an urgent need for doctors. Yet they allege they became targets of discrimination and say they were bullied and intimidated by some administrators.
People are very friendly. My patients are amazing. My colleagues are amazing until about 6 months ago, as Tunde says. And it's ridiculous because it's changed so fast.
That change, they allege, came when Dr. Bonnie Richardson and Dr. Linus Kumaliauskas took over leadership of their department. Shortly after, they allege, they stopped being assigned to shifts that let them teach residents and were no longer given prized shifts that offered extra pay. Those, they say, went to white colleagues.
We that are people of color got zero of most of the positions that used to be more or less evenly distributed amongst everybody, as in zero.
5 of the doctors who signed the complaint spoke to CTV News, sharing stories of intimidation and harassment after they complained.
It's literally been the most toxic place I can see any one of us has ever walked in, easily.
Their appeals to the Saskatchewan Health Authority and the Provincial Ministry of Health, they say, were ignored. The only outcome was an investigation of hospital policies by the hospital itself.
There should have been a third-party external investigator, certainly not an investigation that is overseen and approved by the people that the physicians are complaining about.
In a statement, the Saskatchewan Health Authority wrote it will not provide any comment on legal matters, adding it's committed to having a workforce that's representative of all demographics. Dr. Richardson's office told CTV News the Provincial Health Authority commented on her behalf. Dr. Kumaliauskas did not respond to a request for comment. Canada is aggressively recruiting health workers from around the world, and reports of racism could, say experts, deter some from coming here.
If we don't address it and if we don't treat it, the root cause of it, I do fear that Canada will have an unhealthy medical healthcare system for both patients and workers of all races.
The physicians say they now want the hospital to change the leadership and put in rules in place to ensure all doctors who work there are treated equally. Elias Whitehead, CTV News, Toronto.
To the crisis in the Middle East now, where Israel's military says it has completely encircled Gaza City. The country's military units and Hamas are reportedly engaged in street-to-street fighting, as well as in tunnels below ground. And this evening, flares lit up the night sky over an increasingly active and dangerous battlefield. The rising tensions came as more people tried to leave Gaza through its only point of exit to the outside world. Here's CTV's Adrian Gabriel.
For a second consecutive day, foreign nationals were given passage out of Gaza and into Egypt through the Rafah border crossing. Though hundreds of Canadians still haven't been granted access to cross the only route out of this war-ravaged region. This comes as Israel's Defense Force launched yet another deadly airstrike on this densely populated refugee camp in Gaza today.
Basically, Gaza has become a graveyard for children.
The UN says at least 20 people were killed when one of its schools was hit.
We want our family members out. We want the Canadians out.
Reem Sultan's family friend, Canadian Ihab Badir, is stuck in Gaza, a Canadian-trained doctor who's now roughly one of 400 Canadians who've been trapped in Gaza since the war began.
The Ihab that went to Gaza is not going to be the Ihab that comes back. I'm sure he's traumatized.
Badir has been risking his life to volunteer in the neonatal ICU in Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital. Speaking over the phone today, he shared that the hospital only has hours of fuel left before the generators die, cutting off all remaining electricity.
This is a huge disaster. All people and all patients in the intensive care unit, for adults, kids and newborns, will mostly die.
Aid has been coming in, but fuel has not. U.S. officials claiming that Hamas is stockpiling more than 200,000 gallons. And now U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is set to return to Israel for a second time since this war began, as President Biden calls for a pause in the fighting, but not a ceasefire, to help get hundreds of hostages out of Gaza. Israel's Prime Minister reinforcing his pledge today, telling Israelis, quote, "We will not stop in our operation to eradicate the Hamas terrorists." And tonight, a sharper focus on the civilian toll. Save the Children says that in just the past 3 weeks, more kids have been killed in Gaza than in all of the world's conflicts combined over each of the past 3 years. Omar?
All right, Adrian, thank you. That devastating civilian toll has prompted calls for a ceasefire in Gaza, and Quebec's refusal to call for one prompted a member of the National Assembly to break down in tears. Shameful is how Haroun Bouazi, a member of one of the opposition parties, described it. Premier François Legault defended the move, saying Quebec must be careful not to send a message that denies Israel the right to defend itself. The war has triggered a wave of anti-Jewish and anti-Muslim hate across Canada. Today, the Senate released a new snapshot on Islamophobia.
The evidence is clear. Islamophobia is an acute threat to Canadian Muslims, and urgent action is needed.
Among the 13 recommendations in the report, weed out bias within the Canada Revenue Agency after advocates argued audits of Muslim charities were excessive, establish a federal hotline to report hate-motivated crimes, and create new criminal offenses to deal with anti-Muslim hate. Those senators did not offer specifics and admitted even current laws are not being enforced. Cameron Ortis, a former senior RCMP intelligence official on trial for allegedly leaking national secrets, testified today in his own defense. Ortis is accused of passing secrets from Canada's Five Eyes allies to people connected to terrorists and drug cartels. His lawyer said Ortis was working for a foreign agency that national security law prevents him from naming.
We're forbidden from telling the jury what the agency was or what the information was that was provided by the agency, which is a terrible place to be in a criminal case.
Ortis is expected to be on the stand for 3 days. The family of a 37-year-old Indigenous man who died while in custody is questioning the Winnipeg Police Service's use of force. This follows a video that surfaced showing his arrest. CTV's Manitoba Bureau Chief Jill Makishan reports.
The video shows the moments after Winnipeg police arrived. A man is on the ground moving, one police officer delivering a knee to his side and punches. As first responders arrive on the scene, the man appears to be unresponsive. Elias Whitehead was later pronounced dead.
I felt like I couldn't breathe. I seen the video, and I still see it.
Jody Beardy is demanding answers. She calls Whitehead a good man, just a week away from finishing his schooling to become a heavy machine operator. The family says he was in medical distress.
On October 15th, the police are called to do a wellness check. This wellness check resulted in his death.
The night of the incident, Winnipeg's police chief said a woman had called 911 from this intersection, reporting a man had jumped in front of her vehicle and started punching the window, trying to get inside. An independent investigation is underway. The family and police are waiting for the findings.
The recording of the use of force that has been circulating around, that will definitely form part of the investigation. But at this point, I couldn't even tell you what the cause of death was.
The last high-profile death in this city, Aisha Hudson. The Indigenous teenager was shot by police following a robbery and car chase in 2020.
There's something deeply wrong with a system that allows our people to be victims of police brutality and also fatality.
There are calls now for a broader conversation between Indigenous leaders, police, and politicians. Jill Makashon, CTV News, Winnipeg.
A group of 5 Ontario hospitals targeted in a cyber attack says it will not give in to ransom demands and that its systems still aren't fully restored.
This is not something you can do overnight. This will take time. This will take weeks.
CTV's Kamal Karmali has been tracking the story. And Kamal, what do we know about the information these cyber attackers stole?
Omar, health authorities have now confirmed that the patient data stolen from 5 southwestern Ontario hospitals has now been published. But where and how much of it has yet to be seen, only saying systems will be restored in the coming days. It potentially leaves thousands of people, both employees and patients, vulnerable to consequences, including identity theft and fraud. Some cancer patients were forced to go out of town for their treatments. Now, a criminal investigation has been launched by FBI and Interpol. This comes just as Toronto Public Library is dealing with the fallout of a ransomware attack from earlier this week, causing technical outages on its website for its 1.2 million registered members. The latest data shows that cyber attacks cost Canadian businesses nearly $6 million each year. Omar?
All right, Kamal, thank you for this tonight. And late word tonight that former crypto king Sam Bankman-Fried has been found guilty in one of the biggest financial frauds on record. A New York jury convicted the FTX founder in a scheme that stole at least $10 billion from customers and investors. Bankman-Fried will be sentenced in March and could face decades in prison. He's expected to appeal. Toyota has issued a massive recall in North America for its popular RAV4 vehicles. It involves over 2 million RAV4 SUVs, including nearly 250,000 in Canada, and covers the 2013 to 2018 model years. There are concerns about potential fires stemming from the installation of replacement batteries. Toyota says it's working on a fix and will let affected owners know by late December. For more details, go to our website, ctvnews.ca. The Grinch has come early this year for a nursing home in Fredericton. Thieves took off with a copper wire needed for a Christmas fundraiser. CTV's Sarah Plowman on why the loot is so lucrative.
All December, Christmas trees light the road leading to a nursing home.
We try and tie them secure.
Decorating started. But last week, volunteers faced a problem.
Well, we couldn't figure out why we couldn't get the power.
A cable had been cut, the copper wire inside stolen.
I think it's awful.
The display doesn't just bring joy, but donations. Money that supports seniors here at Pine Grove Nursing Home.
Not everything is covered by government grants or the rent that they pay.
Scrambling to fix it is 86-year-old Joe Dobbelstein, a retired electrician.
So if it takes 3 days or a week, whatever it takes, I just work away at it.
Police estimate the damage is about $3,000. It comes after vandals recently targeted a neighboring graveyard.
Thefts, vandalism, graffiti, all those numbers are trending upwards in Fredericton. We can't say if these two crimes were related.
From power companies to telecoms, and now this. Copper wire theft is causing problems.
What's happened over the last
few months, in the last year or so, is we've seen a dramatic rise in the value of copper, and therefore there's more thieves who are interested in stealing it.
The foundation behind the light display is determined to deter thieves. They're moving the cable and looking at adding lights and security cameras. The group's president has a message for those involved.
What we're doing here is for the benefit of the residents. And who knows, they may be a resident here someday.
Despite the setback, people here are moving ahead, and the hope is that the Festival of Lights will be ready to go as planned on December 1st. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
Coming up.
That's going to take some time to kind of get something like that under control.
The rat race to save Alberta's reputation. It's a crown that no community wants to wear. A national pest control company has released its rankings of Canada's rattiest cities. Toronto, Vancouver, and Burnaby, BC top a list of 25 most rodent-laden cities in Canada, spanning from coast to coast. A notable exception, Alberta, where for almost 75 years they've boastfully claimed to live rat-free. But as Alberta Bureau Chief Bill Fortier reports, some new infestations may be testing that title.
Inside this Calgary recycling plant, a pest common in many parts of the world, but not here.
There is no rats in Alberta, supposedly.
We're supposed to be rat-free.
Alberta's long-touted rat-free status is now being challenged by the infestation here and a second at another nearby recycling facility.
Rats can get into province. I can't stop them from getting in, but when they do, we don't allow them to permanently establish.
Rat-free is a label Alberta wears proudly and takes seriously. Since the 50s, a strict rat control program has been in place, including the Rat Patrol, which goes from farm to farm hunting the rodents down. The patrol covers a 600-kilometer long, 30-kilometer wide swath, the only stretch the pests typically try to enter on their own. The last major infestation was in Medicine Hat in 2012. It took around 2 years to deal with.
That's going to take some time to kind of get something like that under control, for sure.
This expert says rats are clever. Getting rid of them is a challenge, especially somewhere like this, full of old food containers.
If things aren't washed out properly or if there's still food residue, it's unlimited possibilities of them to have access for those needs that they have.
In a statement, the province says we have been working with both facilities to contain, eradicate, and monitor the area. It's not clear how many rats are scurrying around these facilities, but officials say the infestations are contained and they're working to keep it that way.
Albertans are very proud that we are rat-free, and I have a lot of pressure with my job.
So for now, the province says we are still rat-free because of that containment. Still, the Rat Patrol is keeping an eye on nearby properties just in case. Bill Fortier, CTV News, Edmonton.
Still ahead, brewing inclusivity. Vancouver's main airport opens a coffee shop that's the first of its kind. Passengers passing through one of Canada's biggest and busiest airports will now have a chance to visit a unique coffee bar, serving up new opportunities with every cup. BC Bureau Chief Melanie Nagy explains.
While waiting for their luggage, passengers at Vancouver's International Airport can buy a coffee
Americana
from the ever-smiling Rama.
Day 3 in the job today.
The 21-year-old just started at Paper Plains Cafe, a progressive coffee bar employing people from the neurodiverse community.
I like making the coffee. It's more relaxing because I'm not a talker person that much.
Verbal communication may be a struggle, but it's not a disadvantage. At the cafe, everyone's abilities are identified, recognized, and celebrated.
All of these people are equal. They should be accepted.
Sergio Coquia is with the Pacific Autism Family Network. His organization is one of the driving forces behind the inclusive coffee shop that's a first of its kind at a Canadian airport.
10 million visitors a year to experience what it's like in our coffee shop, to meet people with neurodiversity and see them in an accepted, supportive environment.
While passengers get a caffeine fix, staff learn a variety of skills while making a living wage. After 6 months, the goal is to transition to other permanent opportunities within the airport.
We're fairly confident that they'll have the skills that they need to thrive in employment virtually anywhere.
But it's not just meaningful employment. The cafe allows people to learn about what it means to be neurodivergent, which helps break down stigma and stereotypes. As for Rama, she's driven by her very own goal.
After I'm done this program, I hope that I can work in Starbucks.
With her positive attitude and new skills, any company would be lucky to have her. Melanie Nagy, CTV News, Richmond, BC.
Great initiative. After the break, Now and Then. The incredible release of a new Beatles song. More than 50 years have gone by since the Beatles broke up. But now, thanks to advances in technology, fans are getting to hear their newest song, their very last one they'll ever release. Here's CTV's Vanessa Lee.
I know it's true. It's all because of you.
The Beatles shared this short film looking at the making of their new song, Now and Then.
I was talking to Yoko, and she said, I think I've got a tape of John.
John Lennon recorded the demo in the late 70s. After he was killed, his wife Yoko Ono gave the tape to his former bandmates.
Let's say I had a chance to ask John, hey John, would you like us to finish this last song of yours? I'm telling you, I know the answer would have been, yeah, he would have loved that.
And if I make it through.
Artificial intelligence helped isolate Lennon's vocals and guitar work from George Harrison, who died from lung cancer in 2001. Fans from around the world who never fathomed their favorite band would drop a new track half a century after they broke up are taking in every beat. How do you feel listening to it?
Emotional, nostalgic. I feel like I'm 12 years old, I guess, when I discovered the Beatles for the first time.
Since then, they have been ingrained in Mathieu Lacourse's life. The sound engineer named his studio after Hey Bulldog. And this is Ringo.
I thought that these were the best songs I've ever heard. I was hooked on the technologies they used, the harmonies, and how inventive they were.
It's being billed as the Fab Four's last collaborative effort. A bittersweet finale for arguably one of the greatest bands of all time. Vanessa Lee, CTV News, Montreal.
That's just remarkable. That's a snapshot of this Thursday. Heather Butts will be here tomorrow. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching and good night.